Time for some wonder. Let's see where we're at. Okay. Here we are. I went straight to room 301 on the 3rd floor. Now I was glad I'd gone on that little tour because I knew exactly where to go and didn't have to look up once. I noticed that some kids were definitely staring at me now. I did my thing of not pretending to notice. I went inside the classroom and the teacher was writing on the chalkboard while all the kids started sitting at different desks. The desks were in a half circle facing the chalkboard, so I chose the desk in the middle toward the back, which I thought would make it harder for anyone to stare at me. I still kept my head down, just looking up enough from under my bangs to see everyone's feet. As the desks started to fill up, I did notice that no one sat down next to me. A couple of times there was someone about to sit next to me, then changed his or her mind at the last minute and sat somewhere else. "Hey, August," it was Charlotte, giving me her little wave as she sat down at the desk in front of the class. Why anyone would choose to sit up way in the front of the class, I don't know. "Hello," I said, nodding hi. Then I noticed Julian was sitting a few seats away from her talking to some other kids. I know he saw me, but he didn't say hello. Suddenly, someone was sitting down next to me. It was Jack Will. Well, Jack. "What's up?" he said, nodding at me. "Hey, Jack," I answered, waving my hand, which I immediately wish I hadn't done because it felt kind of uncool. "Okay, kids, okay, everybody settle down," said the teacher, now facing us. She had written her name, Miss Petosa, on the chalkboard. "Everyone find a seat, come on in," she said to a couple of kids who had just walked in the room. "There's a seat there and right there." She hadn't noticed me yet. "Now the first thing I want everyone to do is stop talking and—" She noticed me. "Put your backpacks down and quiet down." She only hesitated for a millionth of a second, but I could tell the moment she saw me. Like I said, I'm used to it by now. "I'm going to take attendance and do the seating chart," she continued, sitting on the edge of her desk. Next to her were 3 neat rows of accordion folders. "When I call your name, come up and I'll hand you a folder with your name on it. It contains your class schedule and a combination lock which you should not try to open until I tell you to. Your locker number is written on the class schedule. Be forewarned that some lockers are not right outside this class but down the hall. And before anyone even thinks of it, no, you cannot switch lockers and you cannot switch locks. Then if there's time for at the end of this period, we're gonna get to know each other a little better, okay?" "Okay." She picked names on the clipboard on her desk and started reading the names out loud. "Okay, so Julian Albans," she said, looking up. Julian raised his hand and said "here" at the same time. "Hi, Julian," she said, making a note on her seating chart. She picked up the very first folder and held it out toward him. "Come pick it up," she said, kind of a no-nonsense. He got up and took it from her. "Shimachin?" She handed a folder to each kid as she read off the names. As she went down the list, I noticed the seat next to me was the only one still empty, even though there were 2 kids sitting at one desk just a few seats away. When she called out one of them, a big kid named Henry Joplin, who already looked like a teenager, she said, "Henry, there's an empty desk right over there. Why don't you take a seat, okay?" She handed him his folder and pointed to the desk next to mine. Although I didn't look at him directly, I could tell Henry did not want to move next to me just by the way he dragged his backpack on the floor and came over, like he was moving in slow motion. Then he plopped his backpack up really high on the right side of his desk so it was just like a wall between his desk and mine. "Maya Markowitz," Miss Petosis was saying. "Here," about a girl 4 desks down from me said. "Miles Nowry?" "Here," said the kid who had been sitting with Henry Joplin. As he walked back to his desk, I saw him shoot Henry a poor you look. "August Pullman?" "Here," I said quietly, raising my hand a bit. "Hi, August," she said, smiling at me very nicely when I went up to get my folder. I felt like everyone's eyes were burning to the back of my neck for the few seconds as I stood in front of the class, and everyone looked down when I walked back to my desk. I resisted spinning the combination when I sat down, even though everyone else was doing it, because she specifically told us not to. I was already pretty good at opening locks anyways, because I've used them on my bike. Henry kept trying to open his lock but couldn't do it. He was getting frustrated, kind of cursing under his breath. Miss Petosa called up a few names. The last name was Jack Will. After she handed Jack his folder, she said, "Okay, so everyone write down your combination somewhere safe that you won't forget, okay? But if you do forget, which happens 3.2 times of the semester, Mrs. Garcia has a list of all of your combination numbers. Now go ahead, take your locks out of your folders and spend a couple minutes practicing on how to open them." Though I know some of you already went and did that anyways. She was looking at Henry when she said that. And in the meanwhile, I'll tell you guys a little something about myself. And then you guys can tell me something about yourself and we'll get to know each other. Sounds good? Good. She smiled at everyone, though I felt like she was smiling at me the most. It wasn't a shiny smile like Mrs. Garcia's, but a normal smile like she meant it. She looked very different from what I thought teachers were going to look like. I guess I thought she would look like Miss Fowl from Jimmy Neutron, an old lady with a big bun on top of her head. But in fact, she looked like Mon Mothma from Star Wars Episode 5. Haircut kind of like a boy's, a big white shirt kind of like a tunic. She turned around and started writing on the chalkboard. Henry still couldn't get his lock open. He was getting more and more frustrated every time someone else popped one open. He got really annoyed when I was able to open mine on the first try. The funny thing is, if he hadn't put his backpack between us, I most definitely would have offered to help. Around the room. Miss Petosa told us a little bit about who she was. It was boring stuff about where she originally came from, how she always wanted to teach, how she left her job on Wall Street about 6 years ago to pursue her dream and teach kids. She ended up by asking if anyone had any questions, and Julian raised his hand. Yes? She had to look at the list to remember his name. Julian. That's cool about you pursuing your dream, he said. Thank you. You're welcome, he said proudly. Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Julian? Actually, here's what I want everyone to do. Think of 2 things you want other people to know about you. Actually, wait a minute. How many of you kids came from Beecher Lower School? About half the kids raised their hands. Okay, so a few of you already know each other, but the rest of you, I guess, are all new to the school, right? Okay, so everyone think of 2 things you want other people to know about you. And if you know some of the other kids, try to think of things that kids don't already know about you. Okay? Okay, so we'll start with Julian and we'll go around the room. Julian scrunched up his face and started tapping his forehead like he was thinking really hard. Okay, so whenever you're ready, Miss Petosa said. Okay, so number 1 is that, do me a favor and start with your names, okay? Miss Petosa interrupted. It'll help me remember everyone. Oh, okay, so my name is Julian. The number 1 thing I'd like to tell myself is that I just got a Battleground Mystic for my Wii. It's totally awesome. And the second thing is that we got a ping pong table this summer. Very nice. I love ping pong, said Mrs. Petosa. Does anyone have any questions for Julian? Is Battleground Mystic a multiplayer or 1 player? One of the kids named Miles. Not one of those questions, guys, said Mrs. Petosa. Okay, so how about you? She pointed to Charlotte, probably because her desk was closest to the front. Oh, sure. Charlotte didn't hesitate for a second, like she knew exactly what she wanted to say. My name is Charlotte. I have 2 sisters. We just got a new puppy named Suki in July. We got her from the animal shelter, and she's so cute. That's great, Charlotte. Thank you, said Mrs. Petosa. Okay, then, who's next? Lamb to the slaughter. Like lamb to the slaughter. Something you say about someone who goes calmly, not knowing that something unpleasant is about to happen to them. I Googled that last night, and that's what I was thinking when Miss Petosa called my name, and suddenly it was my turn to talk. My name is August, I said, and yeah, I kind of mumbled it. What? Said someone. Can you speak up, honey? Said Mrs. Petosa. My name is August, I said louder, forcing myself to look up. I have a sister named Via and a dog named Daisy, and that's it. Wonderful, said Mrs. Petosa. Anyone have any questions for August? No one said anything. Okay, you're next, Miss Petosa said to Jack. Wait, I have a question for August, said Julian, raising his hand. Why do you have that tiny braid in the back of your hair? Is that a Padawan thing? Yeah, I shrugged, nodded. What's a Padawan thing? Said Mrs. Petosa, smiling at me. It's from Star Wars, answered Julian. A Padawan is a Jedi apprentice. Oh, interesting, answered Miss Petosa, looking at me. So you were into Star Wars, August? I guess, I nodded, not looking up because I really just wanted to slide under my desk. What's your favorite character? Julian asked. I started maybe thinking it wasn't so bad. Jango Fett. What about Darth Sidious? He said. Do you like him? Okay, guys. You guys can talk Star Wars stuff at recess, she said cheerfully. Let's keep going. We haven't heard from you yet, Jack. Now it was Jack's turn to talk, but I admit that I didn't hear a word that he said. Maybe no one got the Darth Sidious thing, but Julian didn't mean anything at all. And maybe Julian didn't mean anything at all. But in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Darth Sidious' face gets burned by Sith lightning and becomes totally deformed. His skin gets all shriveled up and his whole face just kind of melts. I peeked at Julian, who was looking at me. Yeah, he knew what he was saying. That's it for today, guys. Love you.